What if tomorrow morning your state police announced you no longer need a permit to carry your firearm? Would that mean more freedom or more chaos? That's not a hypothetical anymore. In a jaw-dropping 9-0 ruling, the United States Supreme Court has detonated the very foundation of permit-based gun laws across the nation. Overnight, what once required red tape, paperwork, and waiting is now being recognized as an immediate right. Welcome to the Firearms Legal Desk, your trusted source for clear, expert breakdowns on gun laws, Second Amendment rights, and what every new ruling truly means for you. Don't forget to hit subscribe and stay updated on the latest changes shaping your rights. And here's the twist: the Department of Justice didn't fight it. They stood aside. 15 states even filed briefs in support. This isn't just a legal decision. It's a signal that the permit era may be ending forever. But what does a permitless future really look like? Freedom unleashed, or a public safety nightmare? Let's dig in. For over a century, states used permits as the ultimate filter. Carrying a gun? Permit. Renewing your right? Permit. But the Supreme Court just said, no more filters. The right to carry doesn't begin when the state stamps approved. It begins with the Constitution. Here are the advantages: immediate access to rights. No more government delays, fees, or biased denials. A true recognition that shall not be infringed means exactly that. The disadvantages: no standardized vetting, raising fears of firearms in the wrong hands, law enforcement uncertainty in how to engage armed citizens, increased tension in crowded or sensitive areas. What if states that relied heavily on permits for control now lose their grip? What if criminals realize permits no longer slow down access for law-abiding carriers? This is the debate the ruling just ignited. For decades, the Department of Justice (DOJ) fought tooth and nail against expansions of the Second Amendment. This time, silence. No appeal. No fight. Why? Because after Bruin in 2022, their attorneys knew the writing was on the wall. Permit systems were fragile. Push too hard and they'd collapse. What if the DOJ is playing long-game politics, stepping aside now, but preparing new workarounds like expanded sensitive zones or training mandates? Imagine this: the very agency once enforcing permits now stepping back, leaving the battlefield wide open for states and citizens. Until now, constitutional carry was seen as a red state experiment. Critics said it was unstable, unsafe, temporary. But this ruling just made it ironclad. Permitless carry is now federally validated. The advantages: equal rights across all states, no patchwork confusion. Blue state restrictions suddenly vulnerable in court. Gun owners can finally carry without fear of shifting laws. The disadvantages: states lose autonomy in tailoring laws to their populations. Courts will face floods of lawsuits challenging every restriction left standing. Potential rise in disputes over what counts as a sensitive place. What if we see lawsuits expand beyond permits, targeting magazine bans, ammo restrictions, and even background checks? This ruling didn't just settle one question. It opened the door to dozens more. California, New York, Illinois, 3 states with some of the strictest gun control laws are now scrambling. California's may issue system? Dead. New York's concealed carry hurdles? Stripped. Illinois, already battered by lawsuits, faces a new wave. What if these states double down, creating massive sensitive place zones where carry is nearly impossible? Imagine most of New York City, trains, subways, parks, all off-limits, effectively undermining the ruling. Or what if courts strike those restrictions down too, forcing even blue states into full constitutional carry? Either way, chaos is brewing. Permits weren't just law. They were business. A billion-dollar industry. Fees, mandatory classes, fingerprinting, renewals. Now, that industry is collapsing. Who loses? States losing millions in annual revenue. Firearm instructors tied to mandatory CCW training. Bureaucracies built around databases and ID systems. What if this collapse creates an underground industry of private training and security certifications marketed as alternatives Because when money disappears, industries don't just vanish. They adapt. Not every state is panicking. Some are moving strategically. Florida ordered concealed carry permits abolished by year's end. Montana and Texas expanded carry into previously banned zones. Tennessee voided local permit laws overnight. What if red states seize this momentum and push further, banning gun registries, repealing gun-free zones, even challenging federal ATF regulations? This ruling isn't just symbolic. It's tactical. States are using it as a foundation to lock in freedoms that can't easily be reversed. Here's the messy part: enforcement. Some police departments still demand permits. Prosecutors in blue states are dropping charges to avoid lawsuits. Sheriffs in red states are outright refusing to enforce permits. Advantages of this shift: citizens face fewer arrests for technical violations. Constitutional sheriffs align with community expectations. The disadvantages: confusion at traffic stops, uneven enforcement across state lines, citizens caught in legal limbo. What if a citizen legally carrying under the new ruling is arrested by a department that hasn't updated its policies yet? Lawsuits, distrust, and headlines are guaranteed. Everytown, Brady United, and Giffords are calling this a national disaster. Millions in emergency fundraising is already pouring in. States like California are drafting new laws to classify almost every public place as sensitive. What if they succeed in making 80% of public spaces off-limits? On paper, that means constitutional carry exists. In practice, it doesn't. We're entering a chess match, and gun control advocates are trying to rewrite the rules of the board. From Heller, 2008, to McDonald 2010 to Bruin 2022, this ruling is the final domino. It cements the idea that modern policy can't erase historical rights. What if this ruling is remembered the way the Civil Rights Act was? Not just as law, but as a turning point in American freedom? This isn't just another ruling. It's a constitutional earthquake. What's next? So what comes next? Lawsuits across blue states. Expansion into zones once thought off-limits. Supreme Court clarifications on magazines, accessories, and sensitive places. The advantages: a stronger, clearer Second Amendment framework. Uniform rights across the nation. The disadvantages: bitter state versus federal battles. Political campaigns weaponizing the issue like never before. Potential overreach by both sides. Nobody thought it would happen this fast. No permits. DOJ stepping aside, states rewriting laws, gun control groups scrambling. So, what if this really is the dawn of a permit-less America? Is it the restoration of freedom our founders envisioned, or the spark of a new kind of conflict? To find out, let's break it down through real day-to-day life scenarios and see what this shift could actually mean in practice. It's 7:30 a.m. in Dallas. Sarah, a single mom, walks her daughter to school. Before leaving home, she slips her handgun into her purse. No permit, no paperwork, no waiting line at the sheriff's office. Advantage shown. Sarah doesn't have to choose between protecting her family and obeying bureaucracy. Her right exists with, or without government approval. But what if Sarah's neighbor, who has never handled a gun before, decides to carry today too? Across the country in Chicago, Jamal, a grocery store clerk, hears raised voices outside his store. Two young men start fighting. One pulls a gun, now legal for him to carry without a permit. Just because the law allows carrying doesn't mean the person is trained, responsible, or calm under stress. The fight escalates faster than before because everyone assumes they can carry. Police arrive too late, the damage is done. What happens when freedom collides with human error? In rural Tennessee, a farmer named Mike is driving home when he sees a stranded motorist being harassed by two men. Mike stops his truck. The attackers spot his firearm openly carried at his side. Advantage shown, no shots fired. The presence of an armed, lawful citizen ends the threat instantly. The attackers back down. Mike didn't need a permit. He didn't need permission. He just needed his right. Meanwhile, in New York City, Maria rides the subway after work. She notices more people carrying, some concealed, some not. Disadvantage shown. Crowded urban spaces become tense. The average commuter doesn't know who's trained, who's reckless, or who's simply nervous. A simple bump on the train sparks paranoia, hands twitch toward waistbands. Everyone's on edge, not calmer. Now imagine 5 years later in a fully permitless America. Crime data shows mixed results. In rural states, crime stays flat or even decreases. In dense cities, police report more accidental shootings, more escalated arguments. Insurance companies begin offering responsible carrier discounts, rewarding people who take voluntary training, even though it's no longer required. Private businesses start creating their own rules. Malls, stadiums, airlines, no guns inside, permit or not. Suddenly, freedom meets real-world restrictions. So, the question becomes not can you carry, but where can you carry without being stopped? Let's break down the balance of freedom versus risk. Advantages of permitless America. Faster access to self-defense. No discriminatory or arbitrary permit denials. More equal exercise of rights nationwide. Disadvantages. More untrained carriers, especially in cities. Harder for law enforcement to manage gray zones. Businesses and insurers step in to regulate what the state no longer controls. So, is this the purest form of freedom, or a recipe for chaos that pushes regulation into the private sector instead of the state? Will your state follow the court or resist? And if you believe the Constitution means what it says, hit that subscribe button right now. The Firearms Legal Desk is here to bring you real-time updates the mainstream media won't touch. Stay informed. Stay armed. Stay free.